Anchor Mike Duffy has been in Lansing all day. He joins us live, and Mike, we're counting down to 7 p.m.
We sure are, Glenda and Simon. Now, in just under 2 hours, Governor Whitmer will take a look at the state of the state and lay out her goals for the future. I want to get some perspective on what Michiganders and educators see as their top priorities and what the experts believe the governor will be focusing on. What are the things that you're paying attention to these days?
Definitely taxes. Is it going to be a huge portion of my income? What's rent going to look like? What's finances going to look like? It's a big, scary thing of becoming an adult.
Would you say that falls under the umbrella of affordability?
Definitely.
And as a student, Curtis Kruger says he'd like Michigan to prioritize efficient spending on education. Ben Meinke knows something about that. He's the superintendent of Novi Schools and sits on the board of the Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators.
Is there anything that you're hoping to hear from the governor?
You know, I'm hoping that the governor will continue to double down on her priorities for education, that she will continue to keep us as a top priority. I think one of the things that we're hoping is that we'll hear a little bit about how we want to continue to make investments in K-12.
As a state, we still rank in the bottom half of states, sometimes in the bottom 10 states. What do you think that says about what we're doing, or does it say that our priorities are in the right place?
I think that as a state, one of the things that we have struggled with for a very long time is that Michigan is funded well below the vast majority of the rest of the country. And if you look at most charts, what you would find is that inflation is outpacing the increases that we get for school funding.
He also emphasized just how important it is to get a budget approved early and on time this year. I also sat down with Dave Dulio, a professor of political science at Oakland University. I asked him about Whitmer's priorities.
I think education is at the top of her list. Not that long ago, she called it a crisis in Michigan. And because of that, we are seeing in her budget proposal a litany of new programs with millions of dollars behind them. I think we're going to continue to hear about the roads. The issue, of course, that really vaulted her to the governor's mansion. I think she's also going to talk about affordability. But that's what's on the minds of the voters.
He says we'll have to see if Speaker Hall and House Republicans agree with Whitmer's priorities and her $88 billion budget.
It would not surprise me at all to see budget negotiations continue well past the deadline of when we would expect them to be done at the end of June. We may be in a similar situation in the fall of 26 that we were in fall of 25.